just, you know. Okay, so this is the Audit Finance Committee meeting for the IDA, December 11th, and we have Sharonda Powell, Christina Amato, and Vickiana DeMora present, and myself, Sharice Ficker, the Executive Director, and we are here, as noted in the meeting notice, to review policies that will be then reviewed before the entire board that complies with state mandates and reporting requirements. So, we're here, I'll just say what we're here to review. We're going to be reviewing the mission statement, the investment policy, policies governing the use of authority, discretionary funds, procurement policy, property disposition policy, property acquisition policy, recapture policy, uniform tax exempt policy, uniform criteria for evaluation of projects policy, internal control policy, 1- and 5-year budgets, and fee structure of the agency. So I'll go through them. Our attorney has also reviewed these, and we'll talk about any edits that he might have had. And then, yeah, if you have any questions, we'll go through them one by one. So just to review our mission statement, the mission of the City of Newburgh Industrial Development Agency is to help attract and contribute to Newburgh's jobs, opportunities, a diverse and net positive tax base to provide long-term economic prosperity and sustainability and advance the general welfare and standard of living for the city and its residents through the promotion, development, encouragement, and assistance of commercial, technology, tourism initiatives, recreational facilities, warehousing, manufacturing, and industrial facilities utilizing green practices and adaptive reuse where available. Does anybody have any edits or anything that they would like to make to the mission statements that would be eventually considered by this?
No. No, looks good.
You, Chrissy? You good? Okay. So we'll have that. The next one up is the investment policy. Look through my papers. Should I have any more procurement? Oh, it's the first one. Okay. Bob has made no edits to this one, so I don't have anything to add. It's the same as we've done before. Does anybody have anything they want to add or change to the investment policy to pass it around? Not, then we'll keep going. Okay. No recommendations to the investment policy. Policies governing the use of authority and discretionary funds. I have no edits on this one either. I mean, just to reiterate, we don't have credit cards. We can't have credit cards. We provide.
Do you guys have this circumstance at the city? We've had this issue, obviously, where we can't have credit cards, but certain like subscriptions, things that are reoccurring, have been difficult, or things that, Cher or Adriana have to do. They weren't able to pay via credit card or needed, couldn't receive a check or something like that. Is there some way you guys get around that or figure?
Well, we do have a credit card.
We
have credit cards today.
And we're sure we can have
I
one?
think that's through the ABO, like it's recommendation through the ABO that we don't. If an IDA usually has a credit card, it's through like an LDC or a CPC, not as an IDA.
Is it a way that they can do like a automatic withdrawal from the bank account?
So we do that. We do like ACH.
Yeah, or if we can get like a debit card.
We spoke about this. We spoke about it before doing a debit card. I think my problem was
Because we're not
it being tied to a person. I think that's what the bank was trying to do. Like they want my signature. Like it can't be tied to
A company. Yeah, a person.
right. And like that was the issue when I like mentioned it to Bob. I mention it again, but quite honestly, the like direct deposit payments have helped a lot. I do that now for
Subscriptions.
like in the newspaper, like if we have to do a public hearing notice, now I have that option. And like we had to cancel the one I did before, so you're gonna see like in the treasurer's report they took it out, but then they reimbursed it. We only do that for like Gusto Or maybe, no, that's really it. So maybe I could do that for the insurance. Maybe that's possible. But otherwise, we don't really spend money for anything like that. But this basically tells you like all the things we can't do with the money, which is a lot of things we're not allowed to do.
Right.
So yeah, so if you have no comments on that one, we'll move on to the procurement policy. Procurement. Any edits on this one? There were no edits, but there are no edits, but I think it's just worthwhile to just like mention again what our thresholds are, so that way we all kind of have it fresh in our heads. So that the general municipal law requires competitive bidding for expenditures by a public political subdivision of more than 35,000 for the performance of any public works, services, labor, construction, two more than 20,000 for any purchase contract, acquisition of commodities, materials, supplies, and labor. So, like with the RFP for the engineer, like I have no idea what, like somebody could come back to me and say to do that report is going to cost like 50,000, or they could come back and tell me it costs 5. So I kind of just wanted to do that anyway, just to see what we were going to come back with, because none of us had firsthand knowledge anyway of what that was going to cost. I didn't know where that would fall into. What else? Up to $500. It's the discretion of the chairman or the executive director. 501 to 3,000. You need a documented verbal quote from at least 3 vendors. 3,001 to 10,000. You need at least a written quote from 3 vendors. And then for procedures for the public works or services under 20,000, up to 1,000, it's the discretion of the chairman or the executive director. 1,001 to 5,000, you need verbal quotes from 3 vendors. 5,001 to 20,000, you need written quotes. So yeah, we don't really spend too much on anything.
Well, this is directed by the ABO.
Nope, yeah, you guys, Adam and you guys made these, like, you upped it a little bit from the last time because they were kind of low. Like I think like maybe for purchases in the office, it was like up to 250 or something a couple years ago. So it was like, yeah, like Office Depot, if I order a couple of, things of paper and printers, it could easily be that amount.
So for in-house for the IDA, for you to spend money, how much is it now?
Depends on what it is.
Depends on what it is,
As far as
correct?
like supply, office supplies and stuff,
500.
up to 500.
For the purpose, it says for the purchase of commodities, equipments, or goods under 10,000. So up to 5,000, it's up to my discretion or the chairman's discretion.
Okay.
But I mean, like for a compute, up to 500, like if I was putting an order together and a lot of little things, came up to that. But if I was ordering a printer or something, like the one thing that added up to 500 or more, then I would.
Well, like last year, you got a new computer.
Right. Right. And sometimes I'll just tell you anyway and make you approve it. It's just cleaner that way.
Right.
And then instead of me, doing that and then going ahead. But if you all are fine with that, then we'll continue with the next policy. Yeah, if you ever don't feel they are, just let me know. Properties disposition policy. So that is how the IDA disposes of property. We have a policy for that. So I will just, I don't want to make this too long, this meeting, but we own a couple of properties, Scobie Drive, and then we own like some posted size, like the size of this table over like by West Street. Those were transferred to us from the city many years ago. If we were to sell any of them, kind of have to go through this policy. We have not. And then we have Scobie, obviously the big one. And then I guess, the armory. Basically, we'd have to abide by this policy if we were to sell anything. And I, at the moment, have no additions to add to.
We basically have to get an appraisal of the property. We have to RFP it, but you get basic things for.
Mm-hmm.
Not the property itself or everything inside the property?
You mean
question.
personal property, like if there's stuff, there's
Like,
desks.
yeah, yeah,
inside
yeah.
of it. I think it's appraised, you would get it appraised as a total property, they would appraise it as, they'll give you values for, like, when you get an appraisal done of a piece of property, it's the real property, it's, right, personal property stuff inside, they'll value the land separately, the building, things like that. In the appraisal.
Okay.
Is this for, like, if the city wanted to acquire a property from the IDA?
It would
have
it
to still go through this policy
Correct.
unless we amend it?
correct. Didn't we amend?
We did amend.
We did amend this policy.
Specifically.
What exactly did we amend to
It was under
make
the
it?
very specific circumstance of the.
But we did, we made it so that way if we were to,
Required, like under so if it's not for market value, we have to get ABO approval. There has to be, what is it, a description or a request for, what was that of,
you have a better memory.
description of why like a separate agency is requesting it, which I believe you guys did for, the city did for the online building. There's certain requirements if you're selling or disposing of a piece of property for less than market value, for less than, you're not RFPing it, you're not.
But we did do something within the past or last year that would make that transition possible. It, like Chrissy said, it was for a very specific thing. I think it's probably like in that paragraph there.
See if that's, oh no, okay. Yes, I could pull it up.
I don't even know what I'm connected to, but I mean, connected to some.
As first and third bullets, so. This is when we modify the distribution policy. And the big change was. In section. Disposition of property. Notwithstanding any provision of this policy, to the contrary, the agency may transfer title to owned real property of the city of Newburgh in accordance with the provision of the public authorities law and general municipal law under the following circumstances. The real property was historically owned by the city of Newburgh. And title of the real property was transferred to the agency as part of a project receiving financial assistance in the form of bond financing under the act. The financial assistance provided to the project by the agency, one, has been fully repaid, and or two, the conditions of such project have been fully satisfied, and or three, the project has been abandoned by the company or entity receiving such financial assistance, and or for the termination of any financial structure has resulted in title to the real property reverting to the agency. And the agency has received a written request from the city of Newburgh to transfer to real property to the city of Newburgh upon conclusion of the project for municipal purposes, and the agency has determined that in its best interest of the agency and the city of Newburgh to transfer title to the real property to the city of Newburgh, and it has its condition. Okay.
That's in the state, so I'm just curious if we need to change it to state city of Newburgh. I'm gonna ask Bob about that one. That's the state, but other than that. Okay. That's the one thing I have to research on this one.
Okay.
Just trying to decide. property acquisition. So if the idea was to buy anything, I don't have any comments to add to this. I don't know if you do. But regardless, if the IDA wanted to buy a property, it would need to have a very clear vision as to why you guys are buying a property. It needs to be an IDA project. Cannot just buy something and then sit on it. The AVO would ask why.
How often does the IDA usually purchase property for themselves?
Never.
Our IDA doesn't, but other IDAs
They
do.
they other IDAs do, and you always could. Like, I don't know, let's say for example,
If it's in any way to help create
economic
jobs,
development,
right?
yeah.
So,
Right.
that's right.
If it was something that like nobody else can do,
Mhm.
and it's going to create jobs, it's going to create economic development, and you have the money to do it, and there's a clear plan for it, not to just sit on it and hold it 5 years, you still have it, nothing's happened to it. Are you repairing something to sell it off to somebody else to make an improvement so that it's more attractive to a buyer who can't maybe pay to put on a new roof or a foundation?
In the circumstance, sort of similar to the way the land bank, I understand.
Yeah.
Where the IDA with complicated properties can purchase a piece of property that's otherwise difficult, has huge infrastructure issues, has things like that, where the IDA has the funds to be able to fix that and get it to a place where it's more marketable, where it's kind of the in-between before the end buyer is able to take it and then finish it, where they may not have the ability to get, because in property and commercial property and property, many buyers can get loans, commercial debt for construction, but can't get debt for like remediation cleanup, or can't get debt for certain infrastructure and stuff that is kind of the in-between piece that makes it difficult, where they would otherwise want to do the project and they can do it, but they don't have the however many hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of cash just to do this portion of it, but then they can get it financed if it's in the purchase price. So there are opportunities, yeah, that way.
Has the opportunity ever arise, like was our IDA board?
We were talking
Previously.
about it, we talked about it at our last retreat, where there are certain properties that, like per planning initiatives, even with the city, that are key corners or key things where buildings haven't moved or where they need certain things and they're difficult to do, where it would be good to be able to work with Alan and the city and the planning department to say, okay,
Right.
we potentially have these funds, we have this availability to do this and to move projects along on a one-by-one basis, not on, a huge basis, but that it could be beneficial.
But I think at the end of the day, it would be like you said, like planning, city
Oh, yeah.
conversation, like everybody, I think that's like a situation you want everybody on board to do something like that. But
At least we know that's an option, that it's.
oh yeah,
That is there. Sounds good.
Yeah.
that might even I don't know, but that might even apply like even if we were gifted a property too. I don't know, because back in the day that the city would transfer stuff to the IDA. That might be a situation where maybe the city didn't want to hold on to something. I don't know, I'm throwing out something that might be maybe a business, but maybe there was a reason that the city didn't want to hold on to something and then they transferred to the IDA. This might also apply as well. Okay, recapture policy. So there's no edits from Bob on this. I have no edits on this. Just to go over what it is, we provide financial assistance to projects in the means of sales tax, mortgage recording tax, and pilot or bond financing. And in exchange, we make the developers promise to do things. And what happens when they don't promise to do something? Well, then this is where
So it's like a revert clause type.
Exactly. And it basically sets forth the process of what does non-compliance mean, what actions the board would need to take, what reduction in the financial assistance would look like, what termination of the financial assistance would look like, and what recapture of the financial assistance would look like.
So as far as like the pilot policy, like the pilots, is it MRB that does the scales, or is there like a formula or something that kind of?
MRB does the cost benefit analysis and they do the test of reasonableness. once we close and we've given financial assistance to a property, then basically our attorney sets forth this, gives like the assessor the schedule. And then they make the payments directly to her. Now, if they promised, 100 jobs and they're only making 5, then that's where this kind of stuff comes into play, where they're, when they're in the approving resolution, they make a lot of promises. They will do this, they will do this, they will do this. They don't do any of those things, whether it's paying taxes or hiring the right amount of people or whatever you guys, making sure apartments are affordable. Like then this.
So who keeps track of all of that? Like who would?
I do.
You do, okay.
And also, yeah, there's an annual requirement, like an annual reporting that I do every year. We have a lot of projects right now that are like in the middle and haven't gotten started yet. Yeah, like the hotel, like 191 Washington Street, they're waiting. So fortunately, I haven't run into this.
Right Street. Oh, this one?
Next to the Boys and Girl.
Yeah, no, what's going on with this one?
They're waiting for their financing to come in, so they were waiting for the city to adopt CPACE, which I think happened Monday. And then I mean, that's an alley question. If, where is that gonna go? I'm waiting to be updated just the same. Yeah, but I have nothing to add for the recapture.
But, so maybe partially to part of your question, that schedule, like how much of a pilot do they get, how many benefits? That is the separate conversation about our UTEP, which is, we have our mission statement, but then we have this UTEP policy, which is very dictative of what, and it's very individual per IDA and per circumstances of your individual city that you have an IDA in. And it determines what kind of projects you're looking to apply, what kind of benefits you're willing to give out. And there's really like a wide range, a wide scale of what other IDAs do, what other IDAs will consider. And it doesn't mean that like, so we could have a UTEP that says, okay, this is our schedule, or these are the benefits that we would consider giving out based on, this criteria or this rubric or schedule. And somebody comes in and says, okay, I don't fit that schedule, but I still want IDA benefits. We have there are exception policies, and they have to go through additional steps to get an exception. But MRB does write the test of reasonableness and the cost benefit analysis on the projects to determine kind of like, well, with all of our projects, to determine if they need the benefits, if the project won't move forward without the benefits, or like, or taxpayers or renters or whatever. Personally, do I feel like we should be giving benefits to, and listen, I'm a developer, to developers as just a goose, as just extra money? No, if you need it, the idea is here to give you a leg up to make the project happen and to actually become a sustainable part of the community and the tax base and all of that moving forward in perpetuity. But it's, the idea is not here to make your returns better, or to make it feasible. Because ultimately, even though we're not directly paying those tax dollars, the difference is, a piece of property, a parcel that is currently on the tax rolls, it's not paying anything, or that's way underutilized, it's like really got a very low tax base. If somebody comes in and builds X, it could potentially, if they did it without any IDA benefits, could have to pay this amount of tax.
Right.
In the interim, they're saying, listen, I need a little bit of help for 5-10 years that will incrementally get us back onto the tax rolls at a full amount. That amount that they're paying is less than this full amount, but is still more than what they're currently paying. And if the property sat there without anything in it for the next 5 or 10 years, it would still only be paying $5 versus $10. So there's kind of this like, misnomer. People get all upset about, oh, IDA is giving out taxpayer dollars. We're not directly taking dollars from our pockets and say, okay, we're giving it to you. We are giving you, like with the historic tax credit, like with any of those credits that phase in, you're paying more dollars than you were to begin with, but you're phasing in to get up to your full taxable
Oh,
rate
yeah.
as you otherwise.
So the only reason why I asked, cause it's just like previous ID, pilot payments, I'm looking, I'm like, man, they're getting a deal.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's just sometimes I feel that
Right,
we
Should they
can,
be?
we can help,
right.
but not to the point where you're paying almost nothing for
Right.
a significant amount.
Those were deals
No, I know way before.
way before.
So that's why I was just wondering about like the percentage or if there's a sliding scale or
Yeah.
like how do you
And
come about
we
with-
can determine that. And the other thing I think that's really important, so MRB does this, cost benefit analysis, which basically says, okay, this is how many jobs, this is how many taxes they'll create.
Right.
Okay, that's great, but the test of reasonableness, which I personally believe, and again, as a resident taxpayer, is really important, because every time we've had an applicant go through the test of reasonableness, they come in and they say, I want $10. And the test of reasonableness says, well, actually, based on your pro forma, based on your economics, based on what's going on, you only need $5 worth of taxes to make this still a viable project. And I think there are other communities, and I guess under IDA law, they are allowed to give out $10, even if they don't need it. The test of reasonableness isn't necessarily a given for every IDA community. I believe within the city of Newburgh, it's important. I believe that every project, again, we don't need to be giving out. We want to incentivize developers to come, and we want to get more development and tax rateables and jobs than we have. That's the purpose of us. But I also don't believe that we should be giving out extra. So I think the test of reasonableness is an important thing to say within our UTEP is required, and developers understand it and they have to go through it, and we just had a project go through that, and they figure it out. And like I said, I'm a developer. I understand, I understand wanting to get as many benefits from as many places as you can.
Right.
But in a city like ours, there are certain cities in Westchester that already have great flourishing cities that have IDAs, and they're like, oh, okay, we just, we want to incentivize, great big projects and other things, and we're willing to give them extra goose because we don't need it.
Right.
We need it here.
Yeah.
We need it. So anyways, that's my pitch.
No, yeah, I agree. I agree.
Okay, the next one up is the uniform tax exempt policy. So
Yeah, what's that?
this is the one where it's our UTEP, uniform tax exempt policy, UTEP. This policy is the one that basically says why we give pilots, who gets a pilot, what kind of projects the IDA wants to incentivize, all of that. We already kind of,
You just went.
well, we also already kind of stated that this needs a whole overhaul, like this needs to be revised completely as a document. So, I mean, if there was something any one of you like wanted to change tonight, we can, but this is basically gonna get rewritten. I sent you guys the document from Tracy from MRB that gave me her pricing, for what 4 to 6 hours would look like on a retreat. So we can talk about that on Monday, if that pricing is okay for you and what day that would be. I think the most important thing for you to maybe understand in this policy, I mean, it's a good one to know. And I think as you are on the board longer, this is like the policy to understand, because everybody's coming to us for tax benefits,
Right.
essentially, and like
That's the.
this is the meat and potatoes, and anytime a developer comes to me, I tell them, study this document. So the more you understand this document, then you'll meet them in the middle, but you'll do that on a retreat. But I think and it contains everything. But we have a tax schedule in there already, which shows what the IDA gives right now. And then what it is compared to as a 485B, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, is just like what is it, like a state pilot, a New York state program called 485B. And so ours is meant to be a little bit better than a 485B, but did we really take into consideration what is the best pilot scheduled to be offered to somebody who wants to do a mixed-use development versus somebody who wants to do industrial, commercial, historic revitalization. Each one of those might have a particular tax schedule that works better for them, and we know that, and that's why we're not really touching it right now, because we just want to analyze how you guys feel about what you want to.
As a committee, we can say, again, we're gonna defer. We recommend passing of all of these policies.
Mhm.
We are going to defer the UTEP until the new year, until we have a retreat.
You can defer the UTIP. I think you did that last year. Because the statute says you have to review them. You're reviewing it, you reviewed it, like maybe you don't wanna make any additions, but you have reviewed it and it's gonna stay the same until you make another change, so it can stay as is, but you have reviewed it. So that's the uniform. Yeah, that's the tax, that's the UTEP. Then we have uniform criteria for evaluation of projects. I think we kind of, I was asking Bob the other day, basically like our approving resolutions contain all of this. Um. Yeah,
It's legal.
yeah, I think we just have it to have it, we don't really use it.
Which document is this?
The uniform criteria for the evaluation of projects. We evaluate the project with the approving resolution. It's like, what's the likelihood that the project will happen? To what extent will the project create jobs? The estimated value of the tax exemptions, the amount of private sector development. These are all things you consider when you vote. You say yes or no, and they're all written into the resolution anyway. So I don't have anything to add to this, but you have it because I guess you need to have it.
Right.
There's that, and then there's the internal control policy. Did he make any changes to this? He did. But they were actually just to change the word from chairman to chair. Did a bullet point and added, yeah. But yeah, this says how you guys are allowed to spend money again, and you're not allowed. And it basically says you need to have quarterly reports or annual physical reports. We do the monthly treasurer's reports. We have the audit. The treasurer provides the report at each meeting. I don't really receive cash. So that whole part about cash is kind of, I would never want to carry cash or ask for a check. And then the checks, we have the stamp, we have the 2 signatures. I called the bank, I haven't heard back from them yet. Everybody's on Thanksgiving break. That week I emailed people and it was like, I'm not coming back to the office till the following week. And then, yes, I'm sure. So, the traveling and the reimbursements of travel and the IRS. I mean, I don't really go out and spend money on breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I did that once when I first came here for class. And I don't really travel anywhere other than if it's like the Albany for like an IDA academy or conference. And I'm 2 small kids. I'm not spending the night anywhere.
Right. Right.
I don't, and that's when you want to go to one of those conferences,
Right.
and spend money and reimburse on your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then this equally applies to all board members, not just the staff.
Right.
But that's the parameters of what you're allowed to spend. Should you all want to go away or something like that? But the other one is like in Cooperstown. I don't know. It's
Right. Yeah.
really far. Like I'll do the stuff that's like an hour away, but
Yeah, it's start getting crazy.
yeah. So that's that. I will have you just if you turn the page on your agenda, this is the fee structure of the agency. I think as a committee, it's good for you to know that. So anytime a developer applies for a pilot, it's $1,000. Anytime we do public hearing notifications, like when the project closed, I bill them all that back. We were kind of touching on that at the meeting.
Yeah.
Anything I spend on behalf of them, it's at cost. I do an invoice at the end. Legal preparation of project documents, Bob bills them and they pay Bob. something new that we did was an annual compliance processing fee. So moving forward for new projects, not the ones that we had before, but the new ones, they will have to pay the office $250 a year for me preparing their annual documents to report to the state. And just so you know, like usually this is how IDAs make money. IDAs usually make money in the application fee, the annual compliance fee, and then the fees that we make when the project closes. So you can see what our closing fees are at the bottom. 0.005 for the first 10 million and 0.00333 for 10 million and up. And then the miscellaneous on the back, document processing, I've never charged that. Some of this stuff, to be quite frankly, it's kind of like up to you when it happens,
comes up.
right? When it comes up, would you want to charge somebody canceled their project because they didn't have any money? Do you really want to charge them a termination fee of $500? Up to you, the miscellaneous, it's fine, but the meat and potatoes of this is the closing fee. So unless you want to change this in any which way, let me know. Otherwise, that's how we charge people, and that's on our website, and that's how the IDA does those things. So then after that, it's just the 1 year and the 5-year budget. Do you have the thing? Great. Okay. So I did pass this around. So I haven't stuck anything in there because I figure like how to do that pretty quickly and easily. I don't know if you want to go by them one by one. The one thing we can just talk about firsthand, what I had Adriana do was
She updated the book.
the spreadsheet. Yeah, in the email, right? Yeah. So, projected income. So I know that we have, okay, how do I say this? Too many words. So, when a project comes in, you guys equally have the opportunity to not approve it as you do to approve it. However, I want you guys to know that if you do approve these projects coming forward, what your closing fees are going to look like and what money you're probably going to get. So the logistics center, that is a correct number. You will get, the agency will get 194,000 when that closes. And that is, I just asked Bob today, it's probably not gonna close this year, so that is income for 2025.
Is that the one on South Street? This project?
No, the logistics.
Yes,
center?
that's South Street.
Okay.
50-72 Liberty Street, that's Andrew,
Yeah, the guy.
AKA 1 Lafayette, now it's gonna be called
Yeah.
Liberty Street Apartments.
Okay.
If he closes with what his project fees are right now, that can change, right? But if it is right now, his closing fees are gonna be 264,000. The Shaw Building, which is another project that you guys are gonna be seeing on Monday, if they close next year, you could potentially get 100,000, and then total would be 559 from those 3 projects alone. Now, mind you, you can do an approving resolution and approve the benefits, and they never close. I've had that happen too, where they never close. But if you're projecting what income you might have for the next year, this is what it would be. And then the armory, we get 39,000 a month. That is 476 a year. What will you guys as a board decide if you want to extend their rent?
They've already taken their option.
Okay, better said, are they gonna stay there with their option for 1 month or 2 years? I don't know, but
Their option is only for 2 years, so they don't have,
well, they could end it.
they can move out early if they
Right.
want, but when they execute their lease option, it is for 2 years,
Right.
so.
But anything can happen, so if you're assuming best case scenario and they're there for all of 2025, that's the rent that the IDA is gonna make. So you can add 476 plus 559, and that is the projected rent of our rent, plus what we make with the cell phone tower at Crown Castle. However, I will say, and this is probably something I should add to the agenda to talk about, we're gonna have to talk about that. So I don't wanna make this more complicated than it is, but you probably, or one of you might know this already, the IDA has a cell phone tower at the edge of the city, like by Snake Hill down there. I think it's city land, and for some reason, back in the day, it was better for the IDA to own the cell phone towers?
because of city laws, which may still be the case, that this, for some reason, the city couldn't, and so the IDA had to, so
Like,
we are.
so it's our tower, but it's the city's land, and then
But we
we,
have a lease, we had a long-term lease on it.
right, and then we lease the land from the city. And then we in turn have a lease with Crown Castle, which you're familiar with Crown Castle, right?
Right.
And then. And Crown Castle then negotiates leases with everybody else. The lease that the city and the IDA have together, I think, ends in 2025.
Okay.
So what does that mean for that income?
But it's
Every-
not coterminous with the lease with Crown Castle, so we just renewed the lease with Crown Castle. But the lease with the city is different, so.
Correct, but I think that if the city does not renew the lease with us, I don't know if they can stop those payments from happening.
Well, I don't know, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's a question for Bob.
Yeah.
Because they're two different leases, and they didn't happen at the
Same time. So we can talk about that. I don't know how that impacts the projection. I mean, you can project it.
Well, so the thing is with these projections, obviously, we want to try to project as best we can, but obviously we have no idea. We don't have a crystal ball of what's gonna happen next year, so a lot of these things can go one way or the other. So we put them, this is for the purpose of the state, the budget, so we have an audit to finalize what actually happened for the year, which you guys are familiar with audits, and then these are projections. I'm sure you guys have to do something similar in the city, where we give our best efforts, but if we don't predict right, it's not
Right.
it's not the end of the world. We change the 5-year projections. Nobody knows what's gonna happen next year for the next 5 years, so these are just estimates. So
So does the IDA pay the city for the
the
property?
no, when these
That's what-
Crown Castle payments, I kind of think this was back in like Bob McKenna time. I'm not sure, these leases, this whole arrangement was far before any of us. So I don't know how or why it got to that point. I do know, at least according to Bob, that there was it wasn't a conflict, but there was some reason that the city couldn't do it, because otherwise the city would have done it. So the city passed it to the IDA. So it's been that way for years. And I don't know if those circumstances still exist. But yes.
I wonder if Cher can get us or get me anyway a copy of that. Just didn't know that. I think it's coming up in 2025. So she will have to speak with who, Ally or
Yes,
to see what.
I don't even know who, but there, there was some legal reason why the city couldn't have it, so. But they wanted the city to have it, they wanted the cell towers to exist, obviously, so people could have cell service, so.
Right.
And then pass it to the action.
And then what, Hudson Heritage pay us $100 for?
Hudson Heritage FCU is the federal credit union. They have that building, so I forget which street it's on. It's kind of on the outside.
On 401 Court.
Yeah. And that actually came up recently, and that was kind of a big topic of discussion among the board members. At the point, what did they have? I think they might have had an initial 20-year lease. So was it 20? They were there for a very long time, and at whatever point the lease was initiated, the lease was drafted, they only had to pay $100 a year, which of course we questioned. We said, why are they only paying $100 a year for an IDA owned building?
That's a nice building.
And it's a nice building, it's a nice piece of property,
Right,
it's all of that
right.
stuff. So they came to us and they said, we only want to be here for another 5 years. Okay, their 20-year lease was up, and they have, per their lease agreement, another 20-year option. So they had two choices. They either sign the 20-year option, which they have the right to do. The IDA can't say that we don't have the right because this was negotiated 20 years before us.
Right.
Or they renegotiate for a 5-year lease. And so they said, we only want a 5-year lease. And we said, okay, then you have to renegotiate with us and you need to be paying market rate as an IDA board. We can't give you $100 a year for 5 more years and sign a new lease. Because, at the time when you were here, maybe you were the only banking institution at the time, and that's why you were incentivized to be here. But we have lots of banks now. And are you helping the community? So they tell us they have great community outreach in Poughkeepsie, and they have great programs for Poughkeepsie. And we said, why don't you have great programs for the city of Newburgh?
Right.
And they said, well, we weren't required to. This lease was originated 20 years ago. And we said, okay, well, as a board, if you want to do these, if you want an only 5-year lease, you have to understand that's separate of your current lease agreement. That's a different lease. We will start the lease over again. We're willing to do it, but we are going to require many things. We're going to require you to have programs for the city of Newburgh. We're going to require you to pay closer to market rate. We're going to require, because there's no difference in you being here than us renting the building to someone else, or and they went back to their investment committee and was like, okay, I don't know, I guess we just signed 20 years for $100 a year. So we tried and we tried. They do have it. Our hope at the time was that they really only wanted to be there for 5 years, and hopefully the building does come back to us, because there's not even any penalties in the original lease if they break the lease early. So like, there's no point in them not signing for another 20 years. They can leave after 5 years if they want. They are only paying $100 a year. Even if they had to pay the $100 a year for the 15 years additional years, that's like no money.
Right.
$1,500. Like, okay, what's the big deal? So so they took it. They executed their 20-year extension. We are hoping that they don't want to be there now, but yes, this is
We also didn't have a plan for the building. Like, if they leave, then it's like, it's on us, which is why we don't like to be property owners. Like, why do we?
well, but I don't think that that was as much the case, because we would do. I think we all had the intention of doing what we're supposed to do, and we'd RFP the building and sell it to somebody on the tax rolls who, would.
No, but it was all the hope that we find somebody. I mean, in the meantime, it's like, who's gonna go and do security and like, so.
Well, but I don't, I mean, the purpose, obviously, the purpose of us is, the purpose is to help economic development, incentivize economic development, tax rateables and jobs. And at the time, 20 years ago, this was probably a great benefit and necessary. But that's also, I think has been, at least with past board members, are concerned with doing deals that last more than 10 years, because things change so fast around here in the economy. What you're projecting is going to happen in the next 10 years, or for us signing on the dotted line for 20 years, or for 40 years, or stamping 40-year or perpetual pilots.
That's crazy.
Right, that's crazy. That's not, it's not necessary. You can come back in 10 years, and if the world is blown up and that's the case, then of course that's what the idea is here for and does. But yes, that was a really big example of why.
$100 a year? Wait a minute.
Yes, why we don't want to sign on the dotted line for 40 years from now.
Okay, so to start filling in some cells, so for the projected for
Well, so here I'm gonna show you guys, you probably saw the spreadsheet. So this is what last year's was. This is what Adriana filled in for 2025.
that's old. You should no, actually, that's no. Yeah, clear that. Yeah, that's inaccurate. She just you can put zeros in that column.
And then this is actual to date, so this was as of the end of November. And then these were, what we did was in the past, took the next 5 years. We were attributing at the time inflation factors, so inflation was crazy the last time we did this, which is why they were greater. And we would put in certain numbers based on projects we thought were going to close, various other things that were happening. So generally we take the actual is missing the last month, but we will take sort of what actually has been happening. And we will propose that for the next year. Let's see, this is 2026, so this is 2025. And fill in. So we have various income streams, which, like, for example, the cell tower leases have bumps in them, step ups in the lease, which are predictable, which are things that we know. Things like closing income. Again, we had, for example, one of the projects that it took a long time because of financing, because of conditions of the market. They weren't able to close on IDA financing, so we didn't actually have a full closing. And that actually went it was in one budget and ended up going to the next year to the next budget.
Right.
And that just happens. We can't control the market. And so we can put, these items in and then see what happens. So let's see. So wages and salaries. So this is proposed 2025. We're actually we don't have, do you have what your contract, I think your contracts are through what?
My contract is through till next year.
Through to the end of next year.
December.
And so is Adriana's.
Yes.
Do you have what those amounts are so that we can put them in? Because those are the only.
I'm at 85 and I think she's hourly. Let me ask her. And that just depends on how much she works.
Right, and how much is she gonna work? 30 hours a week?
3 days.
Okay,
So 8 times 3, 20. Wait, 8 times 3 is 24.
Mhm.
Yeah, so she's working less than 30 hours a week.
Okay.
Like between 24, on a board meeting week or a night like this where she's coming extra hours, then that week might be more. So you could say, it's between 24 and 30.
okay, so let's say 26, and what is her hourly?
32.
32 times 52 weeks. Okay. Okay, so that's what we have in contract. Other employee benefits, we don't have professional services contracts. So we're at 159. So this includes our retainers, this includes Bob, things like that. Is this all legal?
Should have taken some trainers. I was gonna switch with her because I feel like this is the spot where she can like easily talk about this stuff. I might tell her to come downstairs.
Come down.
I
I know we go through this and we used to have little notes in here, but the notes aren't in this one. I could try to pull up last year's if you want.
Yeah, professional services and contract.
Let me see, I'm pretty sure, hold on.
Yeah, let me tell her to come because
I think
I don't have any I don't have any, whatever you want to add or subtract to this is fine by me.
Mhm.
We're gonna end up with a large surplus anyway. We're not gonna. Yeah,
Let's say.
I'll switch with her and she can
Investment
answer.
earnings.
You might have other
Started
questions.
we started with expenditures, I'm sorry, because we were further down. But I think professional services contracts includes Black Dog, includes.
Yeah, it includes
Bob,
it includes the auditor, it includes legal, it includes
So Black Dog is the web design
so like
PR
right
marketing
here.
company.
well,
It includes Bob, the attorney. I think it also includes Jacobitz and Gubitz, which he has been special counsel specifically for the armory, which unfortunately has gone on for a while just because it's such a complicated project. We also have.
yeah.
What other reoccurrings do we have?
It should just be under that part of the P&L, I think. Like legal fees, the Jacobitz. Then there's Whiteman, MRB, but then we pass those fees on to the.
MRB is a pass through because it gets reimbursed by the actual applicants.
Yes.
Black Dog doesn't, Bob's fee for us doesn't.
Correct.
So these are net of applicant fees, so.
I think we include those. I think we include what, I think, we don't include that it passes through. I think we just include that as, let me go there.
So, let's see, professional services contracts, I actually think this proposed line was what we had proposed for 2025 before. This wasn't what they came up with, this is what we had projected, so actual to date, I guess we're at 160 for professional services contracts, so that would include attorneys or, and those fees are always crazy. So maybe we want to keep it at 150 because the year before was only 77. Supplies and materials, we can bring this down. I think we had it higher. We were anticipating a special, potentially doing like what do you call it, like a conference, this year, like an economic development conference, but, I think that's what.
Hello.
That's materials. Oh, professional services contracts, that's Bob, that's Black Dog, that's Jacobowitz, is there anyone else we have reoccurring that's in there?
Just the audit.
Okay,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
OPK,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, you guys can tell me what you feel. We're at 159 already. I think a lot of that is because we've had. So per our last conversation with Kelly at Jacobowitz and Gubitz, we're in the middle of this kind of lawsuit. We sort of offered a number, hopefully, to settle so that we don't have to continue. I think we had kept that number higher just in case the lawsuit continued.
So the 159, was that mostly Jacobowitz and Gubitz? Is that are they the ones who?
Do you know what the majority of the 159?
From
For the actuals for this year?
So actually, it's not.
With professional services?
So far, it looks like it's, so this isn't net, the 159, so like if we get billed from Bob's company. Like there are various of these things, the logistics center or, like the armory, we don't get reimbursed for, so some of this was the armory. Scobie Drive, for example, the 11,000, the applicant actually gets billed for for Scobie Drive.
Mhm.
So this number, some of this will get reimbursed by applicants. Yeah.
So if you look at the one for the Newburgh's Logistics Center, it
Yeah.
does show as 0 because we're gonna close.
We're gonna have those on it, okay. Okay, so the actual audited budget, I guess, when all is said and done, when will we get, like, for example, Scobie Drive is 11,000. I'm assuming before the audit, we'll get some sort of reimbursement for that.
Before the audit, probably not.
Is there do we get it monthly or do we get it quarterly?
I think monthly.
Okay.
Yes, monthly.
Okay. So some of these things, like the armory, obviously, we're not getting reimbursed on. IDA business, cell tower stuff is verifying leases and stuff we don't get reimbursed for. Murphy's Ditch, that was a specific case. That was actually a very, very old project, I think was in the town of Newburgh. It was weird. Cher actually found these documents, they had owed us money. It was, I don't know why IDA had any business in the town, but this was from like 20 years ago. And it said, once they developed, they owed us a certain amount of money and then they owed us another payment. And it was apparently never collected and she wrote them a letter and they paid us. Like, okay, but I think Bob had to write up, I think there was a whole sort of separate contract or something, but that was specific. So some of that, Jacobowitz and Gubitz is the 18.5. So that's some of the armory bond, that's the bonds part of it, but some of it is is basically all tied up at the armory, because there's special counsel for the armory. So what else is in there?
So if we're gonna be reimbursed for some of the 195, I would just keep it at the 150 as well. Yeah,
Okay. You okay with that?
that's fine.
Keep it checked. Okay, so then, supplies and materials. We can bring this down again if we're not gonna end up doing, I think we had that higher. We might have even had that higher because we weren't sure about if we were buying two computers or, what. So we can bring this down to what, 3,000?
Yeah, promises, so, yeah.
Okay, and then other operating expenditures. And those are what, like special project things, other operating expenditures?
Those, I thought, other expenditures were, I had it written down, I think it's upstairs, so I grabbed that.
So like in the past, I'm pretty sure. We're getting expenses at friends and see if it was. Professional development memberships. So like in the past, the IDAs during like COVID, for example, were allowed to offer a benefit. For, what was that called? FF&E, was that, for your masks and things like that.
Yeah.
We were allowed to offer, the state authorized IDAs, the ability to offer grants to small businesses to be able to get protection on, any equipment and things that they needed to operate their business. So we had a program, we delegated a certain amount of money to that, and we offered that to the small businesses around. And so like in that particular year, that went into other operating expenditures. And again, I think we had proposed, I think that this with that, I'm pretty sure we had proposed, we were gonna do a few different things this year between a conference, there were a few items that we were trying, and more website things.
So the other expenditures include all the administrative expenses except Black Dog, which is included in that. And then also the IDA expenses are included in
Other expenditures,
insurance as well.
insurance, okay. Has our insurance gone up?
It's pretty much stayed the same. It hasn't increased so much.
Okay, so, well, we had projected 25,000, it was 53 this year. What are your opinions about what it's gonna be next year? We, like all the 53, is that like basically recurring stuff?
Yeah, did something happen this year to bring it up that much? Because what last year was 14,000, 14,600.
Right.
And then for it to jump to 53, like did something major happen between the years or?
No, like.
Huh.
What's the note? Sorry, read to me the number again.
So we have in here actual to date 53,833.76. But last year it was 14,628.26. Oh God, 28. You got the glasses.
Like what?
I am. I really am struggling with this whole getting older and losing my vision. All of you with my just every single time I go, and he's like, "You're really dramatic," and I'm like, "I can't."
So we just gonna judge you.
Can't see anything.
Okay, so for other expenditures, we have that 53 and we have an actual
14.
1,000.
Well, no, we have an actual of 53. And last year we had an actual of 14. I'm wondering if certain things are categorized in this that weren't last year.
Trying to think what. Let me see this.
Yeah, what would be in
Last
there?
year.
Do you have what's in that 53? We have insurance, which is what it is.
Administrative. I think honestly, it's.
Black Dog's not in there. That was specific to last year, I think Black Dog started. but that's
We
not.
started that in 2020.
Three. Okay. Okay, well, we'll go back to that one when you look at that. Let's see what else we have. We generally don't have anything for these items. And then,
Okay, sorry, yes, now I know what it is. So for the logistics center, that's why it went up so much.
logistics.
All because remember, we had been for the escrow account, so we received the bill, but we do pay it out. So all
Ah.
that.
Oh, so some of this will net out then too.
Correct.
Some of this is reimbursable.
Mhm, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's see, if you take out sort of what you think might be reimbursable, are we closer to the 15 or 25? Maybe we should keep it at the 25.
I
since I'm
think
sure-
I would keep it at 25.
the 25. Okay. Okay. Let's see, so we're kind of doing this backwards. We're going through expenditures. Well, actually, so we did all the expenditures. If we want to think about 2026, 27. She must have zeroed these out. Let's see. This is for professional service contracts. So what would you say for the next 5 years you want to put like we had done in the past, put an inflation, just stick to this number and then just add 3% a year? We're all trying to stick to 3%.
Yeah, I'll be comfortable with that.
Okay. Hopefully, we can keep inflation moving forward 3%.
From your lips to God's ears.
Years. Ay, three. Three. This is on 2026. 7. 128. God, I can't believe 2030 is 5 years.
Believe it.
Believe it, it's moving too fast. Right along with my eyesight deteriorating.
Small heart.
It's all going too fast.
You might not be the only one that's losing your eyes.
Second one to be.
Now, we hold these meetings every month
No,
or
no,
every year?
every year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, we wanted this. 3%, and we want this always to be.
Now, Sharon Adriana, their contract is what, every year or like, what's the?
Every year, we ended up doing it, so previously we were doing contract review and like performance review and stuff like that from hiring date to hiring date. But then, so Cher just a few years ago went on full-time, she was also hourly, so we brought her salaried. And then when exam started, we had 2 different hiring dates and we were doing it, we said, okay, let's just start from calendar year, do a calendar year. So we signed your contract probably just right before we were in discussion about this, and it like kind of kept extending from the beginning of the year and went through summer season. And we said, okay, it was like just like right at the end of summer season, I think. We said, okay, let's just do this calendar year to calendar year.
All right, so then their contract is at the end of 2025?
2025, yeah.
Okay.
So
will that be projected to like their salary increase or there's?
yes, Well, I mean, we're doing it right now at a 3% per year. Let's see, we don't want this to be here. We want this to be based off of this one. Well, we can do it based off of. We can, let me just make sure this makes sense. We can do it however we want if we want to attribute a different growth factor. I mean, ultimately, every time it comes up, the governance committee talks about it, if there's special circumstances or different things, or we take on, this has been based on the number of projects we have, things like that. If we get to a point where this year, all of a sudden, we're taking on more projects, we need to hire somebody else, obviously that changes, and we can change that, but we don't know that today, right now. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna go backwards. We've got expense, now unfortunately, we only do this once a year. Okay. This is fun. This way. Okay, so these are charges for services, which are just what, our application fees?
Yes, application fees and then closing fees, which we don't have yet.
Okay, so. Rental and financing income. Okay, so financing income, I believe this is where we had put last year probably. I think we were estimating closing on. This used to be 2026. Was this the Foster Sims project? This is the hotel.
I think so, yeah.
So what we can project out. Okay, so applications, so they're $1,000 a project. We had 3 that applied. Big projects, right? Just 3,000 in application fees total this year. So, what do you propose for, we want to stick at 3,000, we want to say 5,000, we think we're gonna get more applicant, and it just really kind of depends on the market. Want to stay at 3,000? I think we had proposed 2,000, yeah.
As was like before, go up.
So for 2025, you want to stay to 2,000, and 2026 go up to 4. I don't know.
Yeah, 22, right? 2026 go up to 4. So that's the thing. Like, I may stick with the 3.
That's right.
I
For 2025 or
For
2026? Okay.
I may stick with the 3 because it really depends on the market and it also depends on
Yeah.
the economy.
Yeah, I know that's. Okay, so I say 3,000 for each year and not do it a growth.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Then if we see the economy's doing good
Next year.
25, then next year we can just kind of change it.
Okay, so these are closings to date, so proposed for 2025.
Yep.
So we have the logistics center, which we're pretty sure we're gonna have 194 because we approved them, 704. 4.82. Plus.
Andrews.
The Shaw building, so we have them both as what, public hearings right now? I mean, do you want to put all 3 of these in?
I'm sorry, the Shaw building is which project?
The Shaw building
Jones.
is right next to,
Behind.
is right next to Washington's headquarters, is that long the
Yeah.
long brick building. That's
Is Andrews project, is that
it's
phase
Jake
2?
Jake Chai's who is Andrew's partner in the foundry, but is Andrew, I believe, is not part of the Shaw building.
No, it's Michael Engels and Jacob.
And Jake.
Jacob Chai.
Yeah, Jake Chai, yeah. So yeah, I mean
Here, you said public hearing phase now?
5072, I think we're voting on public hearing this, and are we also voting on the Shaw building? I don't think we've gotten to.
So
we haven't even gotten to that point yet, so maybe we don't include the Shaw Building, but we do include.
Andrews project,
Let's choose 64.
32.1.
Thank you. 20. Okay. So proposed in 2026, maybe we put the Shaw,
The Shaw,
maybe we just put
mhm.
$100,000. And then do we want to just say, well, we don't necessarily know. We want to, well, we had 500, 400, 600. What do you want to put moving forward? 2026, 27, 28.
So we have the actuals for 23 was 630,
Yeah.
458.
Is what we're proposing for the two.
Oh.
We did 553 this year.
If we say roughly, if we were to get 3 projects, right, for the 100,000 application fee,
Yep. You want to say
I would,
400,000 or 500,000 to be safe?
I would say 4.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you want to continue that out on a straight line, or you want to increase that? We'll
No,
just
we
say
can
4.
continue that in a straight line.
Okay. Okay.
But you just never know.
We just never know. Well, and it's true because like the last few years has been great, but like and actually, let's see, do we keep them in here? Yeah. We're not co-ops, so we just said them. Right, 2021. I don't know why. Some versions of the book, I'm not sure which version this is, but we had 2022, with 2021, we had nothing. 2016,
Yeah.
17, so it just depends. We can fill that in. Okay, so we've done this line, other operating income. And this other operating income, oh, this is the Murphy's Ditch, which we did get last year. We don't have other things that are like really projected in other operating income. That's just like random one.
Yeah, but we do have the one check, because we're supposed to be 2 checks.
2 checks.
So we only have the one, so
We think maybe we're gonna get it next year.
I don't know.
Okay, maybe we 2025 maybe. You want to put it in or not?
I would put it in, but if it's not,
Not sure.
if we're not sure that we're gonna actually get it, then
Yeah. Okay. So let's see, investment earnings. This is what we're making off of interest in the money market accounts. So they are currently the largest amount of our cash is in what we're getting 4.5 right now through Lakeland, who's now Provident. 4.6. It changes with the market. So I think we have those definitely go because we've signed up for a 9-month CD a few months ago, so that definitely goes into 2025. And we have the opportunity again to continue to roll, which we don't want cash sitting around, obviously, which is partially why we were talking about, like we were talking about before, are there opportunities for projects that we can help, like a building that needs structural help, or things that we can use that money that will actually get more buildings back on. The taxpayers and great jobs. So like with the CDs, if you pull them out, well, you know this, if you pull them out beforehand, you don't get the interest. Some of them it is in CDs, some of it I think we even have in money market, which is liquid the day of. So we have particular projects. So we kept a certain amount of money for operating that is not necessarily earning money that we wanted to hold just in case we had smaller projects like the website or things like that were in money market that were still earning interest, but were more liquid. And then the larger bulk of it in rolling CDs that was still earning money. So I believe that we had this is actual to date. This is probably what we had projected last year. So we we can continue to project out.
So the 265 is at a 4.6% rate.
Yeah, well, over this past year, I think it was even a little bit higher.
It was higher.
And then it's gone down when they dropped
Yeah.
interest rates.
Okay.
They've dropped rates twice, so. So I would say, I mean, even if we want to conservatively project it at the 3% and draw it out that way, at least it's a placeholder.
Yeah, what's the lowest the rates have been that you know of?
Well, so these CD rates, and money market rates, obviously when interest rates went way high, it was great. We're earning, 4% or more on money. If we get back to an environment where interest rates are back down very low, again, which is like politically Trump would like them to be lower. Can he compel the Fed to do that? Not necessarily. I don't know how much pressure he's going to be able to put on that. Obviously, the development community relies on that. So inversely, if he is able to get interest rates lower, this amount will go lower. Do I think, we're at 4.6% now. Do I think that he's going to be able to get them to drop it? They dropped what, 0.5 point and then 1/4 point. Do I think that they're going to drop? The market right now is not forward projecting
Okay.
huge drops. They do believe that in 2025 there are going to be some drops. Previously they were projecting, consistently at every Fed meeting at least 1/4 point. If we're earning 4% and they are able to get a full point next year, maybe the inflation rate of 3%, maybe that's safe to predict.
Yeah.
So we can say, we'll take this. Let's say the 3%. And I know that this isn't a full year per se, but we'll see.
Yeah. We're November's amounts, because that's calculated to November 26th. November amounts are not in there, and December amounts are not in there.
Yeah,
So we should be about 270-ish
for the year.
for the year.
Let's see. Make it up. So that's 11 months. 11 times 12. So that projects the additional year. So moving forward, we'll take this times plus the 3%. No, this forward. Maybe cutting the books. Yeah, that's it. That's generally what we project. So, yeah, you guys are okay with this?
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. You will present. You okay with presenting it to the board? Just waffling our assumptions. I mean, if you're not, I'll present it. It's totally up to you today. Tell me. I'm gonna email this to all of you guys. And
I feel like I was getting my thing told good then. I just had to get a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, it's bad enough that you have to be a freaking. Okay, I'm gonna have to, I don't have, do we have service here? Do we have a network here, do we know?
Well, I don't know.
How did she
Well, she thinks
She's
she's on.
forwarding. So what I'll do as soon as I get home, I'll send this because I can send, it's not connected.
Yeah, she thinks.
But I just saved this version. Uh, yeah, and I think we have made it through all the items, the 5-year, the proposed 2025. And that's it.
What the fee structure of agency, what it does, what shares percentage.
I don't know. It's a lot of like trying to, I mean, right, it's trying to predict, I mean, everything has been so volatile with like the market politically,
Right.
especially like during the COVID years, it was like. I have no idea.
Last time I was downstairs, I'm like, are they gonna be the taxes?
I know, they're not.
What, and they good,
Yeah,
Right.
they do, they paid their.
they paid, yeah, oh, yeah, no, I know, predicting, gosh, that was
Oh,
crazy.
man.
Who is actually gonna pay their bills? I mean, our accounting department, during COVID, we were all sitting home, we'd get on the phone. And I had like a written out sheet and it was like, okay, who paid?
Right.
People back. Yeah, unbelievable, but yeah, thank God we're through that.
Yes. Hopefully they never visit nothing like that again.
No, never.
In our lifetime.
No, in our time, yeah, hopefully for children's life.
Yes.
But we just. I think we just have to say, we went through the budget, we went through these various items. We will present at the board meeting our recommendations. I don't think there were many changes that we requested. And if everybody is in favor of adjourning, we will adjourn. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh,